And we are live. Hello everyone. Welcome to Henriette Goes Live. It's the 24th of February today, so it is that time where we want to just develop our playing a little bit further after having got back into the routine perhaps in January. And I'm here to answer any of your questions. Hello, Carrie Ann. Should I say Carrie-Anne or Seri-Anne? I'm so sorry. I can't remember. You have told me before. Forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong. But good afternoon and lovely to see you here. Anyone else who's here, come and say hello in the chat box. And in a second, I will walk you through how we are going to do this course today. So this is your opportunity to ask me any violin-related questions. And it is my great delight to do these classes because, social media and YouTube in particular can be a very sort of impersonal place to go. And I'm trying my hardest to make this a little bit more personal. So it's lovely to see you here. Come and say hello in the chat box and then we know that you are there. You can all ask any violin related questions. This time I've opened it up to anyone who is here, so you might have a question, and I've got a couple of questions as well in case people are a little bit sort of afraid to get started, because sometimes underneath videos, in descriptions below the videos, people ask me questions and there isn't always the time or the space to answer those, so we will get round to doing that. So if you have asked a question below a video, there's a good chance today that we will get to answer those questions. Then I will explain a little bit about music theory, as we've come to do as a sort of regular thing in recent live classes, and then especially to do with counting. So stay tuned in this chat for a bit later when we do a music theory riddle. So first of all, when you're here and you want to say where you live, that is really nice for me to see if people are here. Usually people are here from all over the world, so write in the chat box to tell me where you live. I live in Norwich in the UK, so I'll kick off with that. Do write where you are because it's lovely for others to see as well who is all connected here. So whilst we are waiting for some replies to come through, let me talk you through the chat box, and you have your name there presumably, and then it says say something, so you can write your questions in there or anything else that you want to say. And then below that there are reactions, so you can choose emojis, you can support this channel if you want to, and then I don't know what this is, engage with your audience. I guess I could do a poll. So I've never used that before, so we might feel brave enough today to have a go at that. And then once you've written the thing that you want to write, you hit send, and then I get to see it. There's usually a slight delay, and I will do my best to read any messages that come through. So Carrie-Anne, lovely to see you. I'll try and remember now that I pronounce that with a K at the beginning. Lovely to see you here. And South Wales is where you live. I should know that as well. And I know that, and this is one of the reasons why I've put this class on at this time this week, that sometimes a bit later you have a school run to do, don't you? So anyone else is here from somewhere else but the UK maybe? Now is the time to engage in the chat box. If anyone has a question, do please ask the question in the chat box by writing in the chat box, and I'll do my very best to answer it. Oh, here's someone from India. Welcome from India. Lovely to see you here. And you have asked me a question before, I think. When will I do the Suzuki Book 3, don't you? I think that is, if I remember rightly. I mean, there's so many messages. I try to remember them all. Suzuki Book 3 is definitely coming. So I have it in on my bookshelf, and I'm preparing the videos, but there's a couple more other things that I wanted to do, but it's definitely coming very, very soon. And I'll tell you a little bit, because I'll tell you a little bit about how the YouTube channel is changing slightly. You may have noticed already that we have memberships now, and the memberships give me an opportunity to provide you with some more in-depth videos. And that means that you can get a little bit more out of the channel, and this is all born from the idea that people who have been following me for a while, some of them have been having lessons with me and have made incredible progress. So I thought there must be a way where I can engage with these slightly further advanced people and offer some more in-depth videos. Obviously, you'd have to have some knowledge about violin playing before you can start those, and that is how the memberships came about. Now, we have 3 different levels of memberships. We have the gold memberships, which offer you special badges, special emojis that have been specially designed for members of Henriette's Violin Club, and those people get priority responses to comments in the comment sections below each video. And then there is the silver membership, and you get all these special badges and emojis, everything that's included with the bronze. But then you get special, more in-depth videos, and the series that I'm putting on there at the moment is foundation bowing techniques, and that series has got quite a few lessons already in there. I started off with legato bowing, and then we did martelé bowing, spiccato bowing, up bow staccato, I believe there is a video, tremolo. Just this week I have recorded ricochet bowing, sautiller bowing. So those are the basic bowing techniques that you use in the slightly further advanced repertoire, but just a little bit more in depth with more exercises, and also I'm making the connection with which study books you might be able to study these techniques on. And then there is the gold membership, and the gold membership involves everything that is included in the silver and in the bronze. So you get the emojis and the special foundation bowing techniques, but also the third position course. So we're learning to play in the third position. That is a new course that's ongoing, that has by no means finished yet. It's only just started, but new videos get added to that all the time. And then there has people have requested that I do tonalization, and tonalization is how you produce a better quality sound. So many people have asked me about that for that reason, because they want to improve their tone quality. And tonalization is also one of the books in the range of Suzuki books. So that is another reason why I wanted to put that on. So tonalization is a part of the gold membership. And then I'm planning to do Suzuki 3. I'm not quite sure where that is going to get its place, but quite likely in one of the membership courses. So let me just have a look at the chat box, because some chats are now coming in. Thank you for sending your chats through. Carrie Ann says, how do I stop my thumb from straightening, please? I've tried so hard to stop it. Causes my hand to get tired really quick. Yes, and the strange thing is, which is why you get tired, is when your thumb is straight, it puts strain on the muscles, and it is actually more tiring than when your thumb is bent. And I always give people the example of when you see people waiting at a bus stop. Imagine how you might be waiting at a bus stop and your hands will be just hanging down by the side of your body, won't they? And your thumbs will be straight. And that is the relaxed state of the thumb. So when you try to bend your thumb, it is sometimes quite hard. And what you might do is, just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I have recorded a series of bow exercises, and they help you bend your thumb, and I'll quickly go over them here. The first bow exercise is the waves, and look, every time I can look underneath the waves here, I want to know that my thumb is bent, and that encourages you to, when you practice it and it goes like this, quite often it sticks through as well, doesn't it? To stay on the tip of your thumb. And I can perhaps show you, let me just try that. If I squeeze my bow really hard, which you shouldn't really do, but it's just for demonstration purposes, I think you might see, which side is that? That there is a big dent in my thumb here. And that is where I hold the thumb. And the dent is just to the right side, on the right side of your nail. So you might want to practice, if your thumb slips through, that you come back and move your thumb towards you a little bit more, so that you don't go any further through than just the tip of your thumb here. And you can practice that, as I said, with the waves, with the wave bow exercise. The next bow exercise, where you can also observe what happens to your thumb, is the what I call windscreen wiper exercise. And again, you want to see that when you're upside down like that, your bow is resting on your index finger and your thumb is bent. And that is how you encourage that feeling of your thumb being bent. Now, if you tip the bow over in your waves, I don't know if you're doing this with me, it would be nice to know that both in Wales and in India and in Norwich, people are doing the same exercise. Okay, when you go tip over this way, you can clearly feel how you're carrying the bow on the tip of your thumb here. Okay, do that a few more times so that you can feel that balance shift. I can start to feel it now on my thumb. The tip of my thumb is now carrying the bow. That's my second exercise. My third bow exercise is just going here. That doesn't do too much for your thumb. It's more for flexible fingers, and you can go all the way up to the point. You may have seen my new shorts that I put on, I think yesterday, to be honest. All about bowing exercises, and this is also new. I was telling you what is new in the YouTube channel is that I'm doing more and more shorts, and I'm hoping that once a week I'm just adding a short just to find some new people who might be able to join us, and this is like a revision of technique within a minute. So they're usually quiet, silent lessons with just some background music, and very quick we'll remind you of the bow hold and of the violin hold, and this week it was bow exercises. So that is the next bow exercise, is what I call crab crawling, or rather the pupils in my violin practice call this crab crawling. And the next exercise, also not particularly useful for your thumb, but just for completeness, this strengthens your fingers really well. And you might try that exercise too. I'm hoping that helps you, but really what you want to check is that your thumb is not sticking through like that, but it's carrying the bow right on your fingertip of your thumb. So let me have a look at the chat box again. Oh, Carrie Ann says, I've really enjoyed trying the new bowing technique she posted. Okay, I think you mean the silver membership bowing techniques. And I think I'm hoping anyway that this is a more accessible way. I mean, we all may know the Violin Basics by Simon Fisher, and several times, superb book, but perhaps a little bit too complicated for many of my audience in my YouTube, who visit my YouTube channel. And I've had several times, I've had the request from people saying, can you simplify what it says in the Basics book by Simon Fisher? And this is one attempt to present not exactly the same material, because obviously different people have different perspectives on the same technique, but similar ideas like foundation bowing techniques. You can't delve too far off what foundation bowing techniques actually are, but to simplify it and to make it a bit more practical for people to learn from it. So I'm glad that you say you've enjoyed the new bowing techniques. My microcosmos is saying, how do I make a smooth sound on the violin? I practice scales really slowly. May I know what I'm lacking? That is very difficult to tell from a distance, not knowing you and never having seen you play. But of course, I can give some general guidelines. The fact that you practice scales really slowly is definitely very, very good. And you may also benefit from the tonalization course if you feel that you want to make a smoother sound. There are a couple of things that you can do. Let me start at the beginning. Making a smoother sound on the violin is looking at all the notes being connected in your music. I also have got very little idea of how advanced exactly you are, but since you've asked for Suzuki Book 3, I take it that's your sort of level. When we first start playing the violin, we always play one note at a time, don't we? And we go like this. And then you go. Well, every note has a rest in between every other note. So the first thing that you do to make your playing smoother is to connect all these notes. You can perhaps remember when you started to learn to write, you were writing individual letters, and then as you got a little bit more advanced with your writing, your teacher may have said, now do it like joined up writing and make some nice loops in your writing. And the exact same thing applies to violin playing as well. So look at it as being joined up writing. And you can perhaps immediately hear that my playing sounds a lot more advanced suddenly, simply for connecting all the notes and making sure that the next note always follows straight away after the previous one without any stillness, without any rests in between. Now, there is of course always a moment where you play your bow. There must be a moment where it stops to go the other way. And the more smooth you make that moment so that you don't hang in there before you go on to the next bow stroke, the better and the smoother your violin playing is going to sound. So what you might practice as well to make your bowing smoother is to practice at the heel of the bow. And if you are that advanced, then you might try using your fingers. And here we come on to Carrie Ann's thing. You might want to make sure that you bend your little finger. Practice playing at the heel of the bow, and similarly practice playing at the point of the bow. Then when you join all of that up, so then you're thinking about your joined up writing, and then you will have practiced playing at the heel of the bow and practiced playing at the point of the bow. You can connect all of that very smoothly. Now if we go a step further and we're practicing our tonalization, and this is why I'm saying to you, perhaps maybe the tonalization course might be very suitable for you, is to just observe what happens when we play very slowly. So now I'm going to slow my bow down dramatically. And when you try it after this video, because it's a superb exercise for getting a really nice tone. Without any judgment, just listen to what's going on in your playing. And everyone always learns so much from that. First of all, just listening without any bias, without thinking, oh, if only I don't make scratches or so. Just observing what happens, and you'll find that initially your playing might sound quite ragged, and you might go. That might be quite hard to make it really, really smooth. But if you practice that a couple of days in a row, maybe a week or so, just go at your slowest, then you'll get a really, really nice sound. And you know much more what your sound sounds like when you go super slow, and go on and explore it for a bit, and you'll find that actually it'll make the whole of your playing much more different sounding, simply because your listening is very different. I hope that answers your question. Sibila Marcheva, hello from Bulgaria. Hello, welcome. I think this is a new name. I might be mistaken, but welcome in this live class. It's lovely to see you here. And then there's Linda from Kent. Hello, Linda. Good to see you here too. Kirsty, you have been here before, haven't you? Welcome to this class. I'm here with my new violin. Oh, I can remember that last time we were talking about different violins, weren't we? And you're playing on a 7/8 violin. Do you all play on a full-size violin, or are there any other people that play on a 7/8 violin? It just depends on how tall you are and how big your arms and hands are, what kind of violin you play on. So let me know, are you playing on a full-size violin, or are you playing on a 7/8 violin? So I'm delighted to hear that you've got a new violin, and I'm hoping you're enjoying it. Tell me about what kind of sound it makes. My microcosmos says, thanks for the tips, I am just a beginner. That's fine, you can learn at any level. I'm hoping you can learn at any level from the Pro-Am Strings website and from the Pro-Am Strings YouTube channel as well. Carrie-Anne's got a full-size violin, Stentor Conservatoire 2. That is a lovely violin, really, really good. You may already know that I'm quite a fan of the Stentor violins. I'm not being sponsored by Stentor at all, but you know, they are just really decent violins, and as you go up the rankings in the Stentor, you've got Stentor 1 and Stentor 2 and Stentor Graduate and Stentor Conservatoire. All these violins, they go up in level consistently. So the Stentor Conservatoire 2, excellent violin. My microcosmos is also playing on the 4/4 size violin. Anyone else on the smaller violin? Not yet, not yet. Maybe some more people will join us and we'll have another question. Now, any more questions? Otherwise, I will tell you a little bit about a question that somebody else has asked. Oh, here, Linda. Similar question to earlier, but I would like to know how to get a good smooth tone when playing a long run of slurs. That is a very, very good question. So start by playing the exercise with the very, very slow bow that I demonstrated a moment ago. Then when you play a long run of slurs, you want to know exactly how many notes are slurred. So some people play 4 notes slurred, and other pieces require 8 notes slurred, or even double that, 16 notes slurred. Linda, I can slur up, but slur down is a real challenge for my brain. Yeah, that is another aspect again, and that is definitely more difficult to slur down bow. Yeah, that's a well-known fact. I love the smiley emoji there. So when you play a long run of slurs, and there are some very, very complicated ones where you get odd numbers of notes, but let's just keep it simple for now. If you have 4 notes to a bow and you play 4 notes slurred, you might play these and stop the bow halfway, and you should have done 2 notes when you play 4 notes slurred. You should be in the middle of the bow after 2 notes. If you play longer slurs and you have 8 notes slurred, you might subdivide the bow in your head into 4 equal sections, and you should have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 8 notes slurred. So subdivide your bow into shorter sections so that you spread the slurring out evenly across the bow. Now that gets a whole lot more difficult if you, for instance, slur 17 notes to a bow, and then you might still split your bow into 4 equal parts and have 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5, something like that. You'd always have the longer, if it's an odd number, the longer number towards the end of the bow stroke. So you want to subdivide the bow into equal parts and then see if you can do that. But don't be afraid to split bowings on long slurs. And this is maybe a nice story. I can't remember if I've told this. I once had a pupil audition for one of the music colleges in London. She was a fantastically good violin player. She still is. And she played the Lark Ascending for her audition piece. And I kept saying to her, just break your slurs into, just split them in half first of all if you find them too long. And then maybe split some in half again. And then she said, oh no, but this is, this is London Music Colleges. This is prestigious stuff. I can't really do that and do anything different. So I said, okay, you're an advanced violin playing. You are an advanced violin player. I can only advise, and you take on any advice or you leave it if you don't want it. And then she went to her audition. She did a beautiful audition and got in, of course. But the first thing the teacher asked her there is, why didn't you break the slurs in half? Because they are so long. So please don't worry about splitting longer slurs into shorter ones. Of course, sometimes you have to split it again because otherwise a down bow will then become an up bow. But, I'm sure you can work your way around it in your music. So I'm hoping that helps you. And here's Nature Sketches. Hello from Pennsylvania. Welcome. So we are covering the whole world basically now, isn't it? We'll go from India to Europe to Pennsylvania. Welcome to this class, and it's lovely to see you here. And Kirsty, I think, is in Finland, if I'm saying this right. You may correct me if I'm wrong. How long do I need to play for the sound to warm up? It's not played for many years. Is there something to play to help the tone to open? Now, Kirsty has just got a new violin. And yes, you're absolutely right that new violins need playing in before they really develop the correct sound, their own typical sound that's typical. New violins, or violins that are not played very often, they start to sound a bit more raw. And that is because if you look at the wood of your violin, imagine you take a bit of wood and look at it under a microscope. You see all the wood cells, and when a violin is played, the cells vibrate and they settle into a certain shape with their neighboring cells and so on. And this is a very simplistic way of explaining it, but hopefully this shows you why a violin needs playing in. New violins, or violins that haven't been played for some time, the wood settles back into its original shape, the way it grew on the tree, if you like. And then when you start to play, you start to vibrate the sound, and the cells just vibrate into their more natural, more play-like shape, shall we call it. So that is how a sound develops. But that depends on how long you play for, individual sections, but also individual practices, I should say, but also time over the course of a couple of weeks. And I would say 2 to 3 weeks, you should, if you play for about an hour a day, I don't know how much you play, 2 to 3 weeks, you should start to hear a difference. And then after a year, you should definitely hear a very, very good difference. But, you might try and play every day for the first couple of weeks so that you give the violin, the instrument, the opportunity to start settling into its vibrating shape. This is all a bit poorly worded, sorry, but hopefully you get the gist of what I'm saying. Now, this is also the reason why they don't really like to keep violins in museums. I mean, there's some well-known violins in museums, in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, for instance. And every so often they invite violin players around to play these instruments, because if they're not played, it's really not good for the instruments. And so by regularly playing them a couple of times a year, they will actually help the quality of the violin, to keep the quality of the violin. My microcosmos is saying, I have the rosin that came with my case, not much of high quality, but how much do I need to rosin a bow in a week, or maybe in how many days? Well, I would say that depends. I always say to my pupils, always rosin the bow before you start to play. That is definitely a sort of golden rule, always before you play. Until you find that when you look at your violin, you've got a sort of big cake of white stuff lying here. Now, rosin has a chemical reaction with the varnish of your violin, so you would always wipe it off with a cloth after playing. And I would say if you have sort of a snowy patch there, you might forego the rosining the next day until you keep your violin fairly clean, but still have got enough contact with the bow on the string. Very good question, by the way, because lots of people will have this question, and lots of people ask me about it. Now, if you have a brand new bow that's not been played before, it hasn't got any rosin. You may recall that I had my bow repaired in January, and the new hair did not have any rosin in it. And by that, I don't mean rosin on top of the hair, which is where you put it, but after a while, if you keep rosining your bow, the rosin will go in between the individual hairs as well, and it will saturate all of the hair with rosin, and that's where you want to go to. So a new bow, you'd have to rosin considerably more than a bow which has been rosined previously, because it will have, of course, when you play, it'll scrape off the outer layer of rosin, but most of the hair that sits in between, most of the rosin that sits in between the individual hairs will still be there. So you replenish the rosin by rosining your bow every day. But if it's new or if it's just been repaired, you need more rosin than before. Now, rosin comes in very many different kinds, and you're saying not much of high quality rosin. In a way, that really doesn't matter. You just need to use more of it if the rosin is not as soft. Softer rosin, and again, I'm not being sponsored by this at all. I find for myself the Pirastro Gold rosin is a super soft rosin. You only have to rosin very sparingly and it comes off straight away. But there are other harder rosins that you'd have to just rub a little bit harder for it to give you a result, give you some rosin. And that is very much a personal preference. I like the soft rosin. I also really like the colour and the smell of this rosin. Other people say, oh, I hate the smell of rosin. I really can't bear it. And those people might benefit from having hypoallergenic rosin. I've even got one pupil, every time she rosins the bow, she has to sneeze about 10 to 15 times, and it's really literally going up her nose. And she has, since she's changed to hypoallergenic rosin, it's got a lot better. So different things work for different people. If you have a rosin which is classed as not very good, I'd say the very cheap rosins, they're perfectly good rosins, you just need a lot more of it. So whether they are actually cheaper in the long run remains to be seen, but you just use a bit more. I hope that answers your question. So rosin every day is the answer. Carrie-Anne says, I'm not sure about my shoulder rest. It moves backwards as I play. Are they supposed to move? Not the bit that sits on the violin, the actual shoulder rest bit. It moves backwards as you play. Now, no, a shoulder rest should be static here. Now, these shoulder rests, this is Wall Forte Secondo, it swivels. Gosh, I am plugging the products all the time. I'm not meant to, I don't mean to. You can get all these products off my website, of course, now that we're talking about it. This one can swivel, and that is what it naturally does. Can you see the legs? So it can turn a little bit. And that is an okay way of moving as you go. So this also swivels, can you see? So it can go more on its side, or it can go flatter on your shoulder. I'm not quite sure what you mean by moving. It's moving backwards. No, it shouldn't move backwards. It should be secure here with the legs. And then once you put it on, some brands can swivel, but they shouldn't really move. So if you've had it for a long time, you may consider upgrading your shoulder rest and see if you can find one that is more stable, because it is just really irritating if it moves, because you want to have that security, don't you, that you're not going to drop your instrument. I'm just looking at the chat box again. Sibila says, how often should the strings be changed? I haven't used my violin for 20 years and now I've decided to play again. Hooray! What a good decision. I do like that. How often should the strings be changed? Okay, it may well be that your strings are still good to play. I mean, obviously, strings do get old, and this is the way that you would want to test it. And I'm going to test my strings starting from the G string. Now, I'm holding this up towards the camera because what I want you to look is at how far it expands when I pluck it. I'm hoping you can see it. Now this is a fairly fresh string. It's not completely fresh. So you can see it goes out, comes back in, goes out a little bit more. Now old strings, they go in and out and in and out. And that means your string's gone out of tune. So what you want is that it goes out. And then it gradually goes in because it stops vibrating. If it does a lot of that, then it's time to change your strings. Let me see what my D string does. This one actually has got a really nice ring. You see, it expands when I pluck it, and then it very gradually goes down. It also rings for a very long time. What about my A? That rings for a long time as well. It's harder to see with the thinner strings. Now my E string is actually my newest string. I'll see if you can see it. Listen how long it rings for. That's not a good pluck. It's only now that that it has stopped ringing. So what you're looking for is a string when you pluck it that vibrates out and goes gradually back in. One that whooshes like that. Try to discard it and buy a new one. And then if it loses its ring and it goes straight down, so it rings for a very short period of time, that's also the time when you need to replace your strings. And how long a string lasts for depends on many different things. One, how often you play it. Second, how often you clean it. And third, what sort of quality string it is. Some strings last a lot longer than other strings, and especially with gut strings or strings that have a gut core, so the inside, which is then wound with silver wire or gold wire, they need replacing far more often because they go out of tune, as in out of tune. So you can't actually play a steady note on it much more quickly than the strings that have a nylon core. They hold their tuning much better. And obviously when you play on your violin and it's got a string that is in essence out of tune, so it doesn't vibrate evenly, it becomes impossible to learn to play in tune, you see. So in that sense, the quality of your strings is going to have an immediate bearing on the quality of your playing. I'm hoping this helps you, but I'm in awe of you if you start to play and you haven't used it for 20 years. And funnily enough, a lot of the visitors to the Pro Am Strings YouTube channel are very similar to you. They used to play and now they're getting back into it. So this is all geared to helping you get going again. And by all means, ask the questions either in the community section when you go to the Pro Am Strings YouTube channel homepage, and you've got that long list of home, about, playlists and so on, shorts. There's a community section. You can always ask any questions there, and people from the community will most likely read that and answer your question. So Patricia, hello Patricia, welcome to this live class. I'm a beginner and I'm really enjoying your Suzuki violin lessons. I have a Stentor graduate violin. You see that there's another one, 4/4 size. I'm glad you're enjoying the Suzuki violin lessons. They look a bit dated now, but I keep thinking, shall I replace it and do a Suzuki 30 days 2.0? But actually, so many people still watch the old ones that perhaps you can bear with me with. I get very, very annoyed when the lighting is not ideal and the sound is not ideal. So thank you for watching those lessons, and I'm just hoping that you're learning from them. And those people who follow the courses on YouTube and then have lessons with me, they are still making really, really good progress with that course. So all credit to you, and I'm hoping that you continue to enjoy the Suzuki lessons. Carry on, time for a new one then. This is about the shoulder rest, I gather, so I fear that is the case. Go on my website and you will find in the shop there's a whole lot of good ones, and recently I was looking myself for a new shoulder rest, and I have been playing on the Wolforte Secondo ever since I started playing. And I thought, isn't it time that I upgrade my shoulder rest now? So I spoke to Casual Strings, and I said to the owner, who I know quite well, send me your most expensive ones, 5 of your most expensive shoulder rests, and I'm going to try and really upgrade this time. And I tried all of them, and I sent them all back, and I ended up with a new Wolforte Secondo. So it is just such a good all-rounder. I wouldn't really want to change it for anything else. Kirsty says, yes, I'm from Finland. I try to play about 30 to 60 minutes a day. Started Minuet 1 last Sunday. My Instagram is full videos of your progress. Excellent. Well, it's lovely to follow you on these live classes here, so really, really good. So you started Minuet 1. You will enjoy that, I think. Wonderful. Carrie Ann says, when I ordered my violin, I added Widner pegs. Game changer for tuning. Yes, the Widner are really, really good products. Do you know how to change the strings with Widner pegs? That's a very good question. I'd have to see them. How can we go about that? No is the short answer, because I'd have to have a Widner peg, and I don't have them here. So one day I will do a video on that, I promise you. Okay, so sorry about that. Linda says, my violin is an antique Steiner copy, and I've just noticed the fingerboard touches the high arch reaching at one point underneath. Oh dear, yes, that happens sometimes. So from time to time, do make a habit of looking underneath the fingerboard here, that area there. And you're saying, I've just noticed the fingerboard touches the high arching at one point underneath. Now, when you play on the fingerboard, and especially when you play a little bit higher, like in this area, you're actually pushing the fingerboard down, and sometimes there is some movement, and when you press it down here, it comes closer to the belly of the violin. So definitely find some help from a reputable violin repairer, because you don't want it to push down onto the belly of the violin, and because that is going to be doing some long-term damage to your violin. So what a violin maker will do is it will just unglue all of that and put it back on at the correct angle. They may need to look at the height of your bridge as well, so be prepared for leaving your violin with the violin maker for 1 or 2, 3 weeks or so, whilst they sort all of that out, because they obviously want to get to the root cause of this issue. Why is that happening? And it may well be that you're practicing lots and lots of high notes and that is it. But you'll find it so much more comfortable to play when the fingerboard is at the correct angle. So yes, do please ask somebody who's very knowledgeable to sort that out for you. Okay, did you all know that violin glue, so the glue that fixes the fingerboard onto the neck of the violin, but also the glue that glues the parts, the ribs and the belly and the back together, that is usually natural glue that comes away with warming it up. So in a violin maker's workshop, the violin glue is in a pot, usually in an au bain-marie, so in a water bath, so that the glue remains fluid, so you can spread it. But when it hardens, when it cools down, it hardens, and then it is a very secure glue. So it should be quite easy to take the fingerboard off just by warming it up slightly. The glue will become liquid and they can just take it off. And I think that is just an absolute genius aspect of the violin. Sorry, I just had to share that with you. Elle, hello Elle. Nice to see you here. I don't think I've ever seen you here, so welcome, and it's lovely that you found us. I bought a very cheap violin, never had a lesson before in my life, and I can play Twinkle Twinkle. I learnt it in about 10 minutes. That is an awesome story. Well, you've obviously got a knack for violin playing then. That is really lovely to hear. So you keep up your good work on your violin, and before too long you can actually play many more songs. So well done. Oh, Kerry Ann says she got her violin from Caswell's. They're a lovely, lovely store as well. Sibila says, thank you so much for your answer. I think, if I remember rightly, that was about changing the strings, wasn't it? Sorry, accidentally pressed the wrong button. I wanted to know if this problem would be affecting the tone. Yes, it definitely would affect the tone if your fingerboard is resting on the belly of the violin. How a violin works is that the strings vibrate, and the vibrations of the strings will go through the bridge into the sound post and into the, if you imagine the column of air that sits inside the violin, so the air in between the belly and the back of the violin, so that air starts to vibrate, and that then makes the belly and the back of your violin vibrate. But if your fingerboard is sitting on the belly of the violin, it can't vibrate because it's static, so it won't sound half as good. And I have a feeling that once you've got this fixed, not only will your violin be much easier to play, it will also sound a lot better. Hello, Creating Everything. Nice to see you here. I don't know what happened there. Elle says, oh, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next live class when you can tell us how you got on. Now, it's lovely to see you all here, and we've got into a sort of habit of doing a little question, don't we? Those of you who have been here before, this all started with somebody asking the question. I'll come to that, Carrie Ann. Sorry, I just read this message while I'm telling you. So we're doing our riddle, and one live class said, how do I count music notes? Now, there is a whole course on my YouTube channel about how you count music. But then I said, look, shall we just have a go and you tell me how to count this? So I'm going to hold this up for you. Here's one I prepared earlier. And the question is, how am I going to count this? So you might have a little bit of counting practice wherever you are in the world. And then in a moment, we'll count this through together. Now, I'm going to have my left and right sorted out. So We are playing in 4/4 time. Let me actually do this way, because otherwise I keep pointing at the wrong notes. So the key to your success in solving this issue is the 4/4 time. What that actually means is the top number means there are 4 counts in each bar. That means that we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Now, the note that if we clap the time 1, 2, 3, 4, the bottom note indicates that this is the quarter note. In America, you guys call this a quarter note. I don't know in India what that's called, but in Europe people call this the crotchet note. Actually, in England, people and in the United Kingdom, people call this the crotchet note. In Europe, people also call this the quarter note, and in America as well. So the whole of the meaning of 4/4 time is there are 4 quarter notes. There are 4 crotchet notes in one bar. So whenever we see a quarter note, which is one of these, we just give it each count 1, 2. Whenever we see eighth notes, or quavers as they're also called in the UK, we name the number of the count in the bar. So this is the 3rd beat in the bar, and then the word and that way we split this counting into 2s. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Now this note here is called a dotted minim, a dotted half note in America, people call it. And this note in itself, without the dot, is to the value of 2 of these. So that's 1, 2, but then the dot says add half as much again. So we're adding another one. So this altogether adds up to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4. Now, if you've got this right, I am in awe of you. That's really good counting. What I'll do is I'll write the counting underneath, and then this video will stay on the channel. If you didn't get it right, you can come back to it and watch it again and see if you can work it out how I've counted 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4. And once you learn to count, and it's more a matter of bravery than difficulty, so I'll hold this up for you. So you might quickly take a screenshot of it, or you might just pause your video once this is on a video, and this will stay, like I said, on the channel so you can come back to it. If you are brave enough to go for the counting, you're going to make really, really good progress. And it's more, like I said, a question of being brave enough to really sit down and try and work this out. This is not super complicated. And then you can apply this knowledge into your own pieces that you're doing. And this is why we tend to do this for a very brief period of time in each of these last questions, in each of these live classes, so that you pick up a little bit of that skill every time as well. Now I'm going to put it away. So that was our little bit of torture for some, but you learn from it, you see. It's not meant to be annoying or so. So let me just go back to my chat box and see where we are. Gino, hello Gino, nice to see you here. Thank you from Saint Anisette, Quebec, Canada. Lovely to see you here. So we've got people from India, Finland, the United Kingdom, did I say Philippines earlier? I can't remember now. The Pennsylvania. I can't remember now. Let me know if I've forgotten you, but I didn't mean to. There's just quite a few. So lovely. Welcome, Quebec. Linda says thanks, that was very helpful. Terry Staggs, I don't know that I have come across your name before, so welcome in this live class. Lovely to see you here. Been working on E flat and D flat. That's tough. Yes, it is very, very tough. Good on you. You're making super progress, and you've come quite a long way with your violin playing. So it's the same as with your rhythmical counting, isn't it? If you don't shy away from it, but just tackle it head on, you're going to make that progress. I'm in awe of you for tackling those difficult keys. Well done, you. Anne, hello Anne. I'm a beginner in North Carolina, USA. Just purchased a new violin, which is lovely. My fingers are short, but I keep practicing intonation. Any suggestions to ward off frustration? Yes, I will give you a couple of pointers. It can be quite frustrating, isn't it? And it is acknowledging that there are some days that are more difficult than others. Let's not beat around the bush. That is just one day you'll think, oh, today's my day, I can do this. And another day you think, am I really making this sound? So first of all, not being too upset when that happens, and really celebrating your good days. Something else to consider is as well, violin playing is often 2 steps forward, 1 step back, isn't it? And it's recognizing that in order to keep on making progress, you need that step back in order to be able to move forward again. In that case, if you recognize that actually you need that step back, otherwise you won't be able to progress, you might embrace this step backwards a little bit more than you think, oh, today is not my day, you see. So if you recognize, okay, today is a more difficult day and I'm getting a little bit frustrated, I need that so that maybe tomorrow is a better day and I can actually make progress. But I was just telling one of my private pupils yesterday the number of times that my violin teacher at conservatoire sent me home because I was stamping my feet and getting very, very angry, that on those days when you get super frustrated, there's just nothing you can do. You better stop. And that is when he used to say, get out of here, go home, eat an ice cream on the way, just cheer yourself up and then come back another day. That is the thing, isn't it? But something perhaps a bit more practical, if you find you are super frustrated all the time, slow down your playing as well. So I don't know what you're playing. You're practicing intonation, so you have got your fingers on the string, I suspect. Just half your speed. Don't want to play too fast at this stage. You'll find that most of the videos on my channel are very, very slow, and it's with that idea that if you can play things super slowly, you can then build from there and get faster a little bit every day and every week. So regularly going back to pieces that you know that you've played previously is a good idea, because then you can perhaps compare your playing to your playing of 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, and there will be progress. But for some people, sometimes it is very, very slow. I hope this helps, and I'd be very interesting to hear next time when we do a live class, to hear from you whether that's helped you or not, and otherwise I'll give you a few more pointers, hopefully. Kirsty says, send a Facebook request for the yes, I know there is a limited number of hours in my day. I used to have a social media manager a couple of years ago, and she's no longer with us. So I'm afraid that sometimes Facebook is not the something that is at most forefront of my mind at the moment. So sorry about that. When I get onto Facebook, I will acknowledge you and do that. But all of the things that happen in Facebook also happen in YouTube. So that is my more go-to social media platform at the moment. Elle says, do you have any tips to warm up before and after playing? Yes. Now, seems like a bit of a strange answer. Many people warm up by playing scales, and somebody else earlier on in this chat has already mentioned this. And what I suggest you do, there is a a video series on my YouTube channel that is called Mindfulness for Violin Players, and that would be a very good course to do as a warm-up before and after your playing. I'm not so sure, because most people don't actually cool down after playing, but before playing, definitely start with mindfulness. Let me just write that down. Mindfulness for violin players. That might help you to have a go at that course, because it is all about getting your body in gear, getting your shoulders in gear to ready for violin playing. So it's warm up, and it is broad ideas about how you stand and how you have your shoulders and your arms when you play. So they're really good technique enhancing exercises there, which will make it easier for you to play because you've warmed up in a proper way. And I'm reading Elle's comment. She had cramps for so many days after she learned Twinkle in 10 goes or something like that. I can well imagine. That's funny. And Terry says he's from Texas. Lovely to see you. So we've got quite a few areas in the US represented here as well. Lovely to see you. We're coming to the end of this class very shortly, but you can all ask me one more question if you want to. I'm starting with Carrie Ann. If I find a piece is giving me trouble, I go and play something fun, then go back to the troublesome piece. That helps. Definitely good advice. So don't stick with your difficult pieces for too long. Do it short and sharp, come away. Come back to it, short and sharp, come away. And it may well be that if you find it too difficult after 3 goes, play something that is a little bit easier, and definitely something that you find fun to play. Creating Everything says, sometimes my fingers just don't want to go, and that is what I call an off day. Just try it again the following day, and you'll find that some days are much easier than others. So thank you for contributing there as well. Anne says, thank you, I appreciate that advice, and I will check back to let you know how I'm progressing. It's always interesting for me to see how you're all doing. Do I need to let the violin warm up? That's a very good question, Terry. Thank you for asking that. In reality you don't, but I don't think I hear a difference when people have had their violins in their cars for the whole day. And at the moment in the UK it's freezing cold. When I tune the violin, I'm thinking, oh, it's a super cold instrument, but then I don't really feel a different or hear a difference in the sound. So the main thing is that you keep your violin at a sort of even temperature if you can, by not letting it get too hot or too cold. So that is better for the instrument, but I don't think violins are remarkably resilient things, and I've travelled with my violin to very hot places and nothing happened to it. So it's quite amazing. We're sort of huffing and puffing and the instrument just does it. So remarkably you don't, is my answer to that. So thank you all so much for being here in this class today and for asking such relevant questions. Anything that you want to do to support the Pro Strings Violin School is much appreciated. You can do that by buying a super chat or show your support in monetary ways. You can just go on PayPal and find info@proamstrings.com. That's perhaps the easiest way. Or you can become a member of Henriette's Violin Club, and in that way you get a lot in return if you become a silver or gold member or a bronze member. And that is all in support of Pro Strings. But if you just like the videos and share them with your friends, that is also really, really helpful. So thank you so much for being here and for asking all your questions. Thank you, and I'll see you the next time. And when the next time is, it's usually sort of at the end of the month, but I'm not sure I'm going to be here on the 24th of March or the 31st of March. I will let you know. So keep a lookout. If you subscribe to the Pro Strings if you subscribe to the Pram Strings YouTube channel, then you'll get notifications automatically about when the next class will be. But I would imagine it'll be either, most likely the 24th of March, but don't pin me down on a date just yet. Lovely to see you all. Goodbye.